Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. This is definitely one of the coolest events I've ever been able to play or speak at. So I'm going to play a song, and then I'm going to talk a little bit. This song is a song that I wrote. It's called Without. What is wrong and what is right? Chills run down when I look your way. Your never-ending eyes guide me today. You, I'm lost, but with you, I'm the same. Fogged windows, little gloves with little holes. I'm sick of driving, so let's just go home. Empty cans, unopened gifts. I didn't plan it until we started to drift. Your faded bracelet sits on my ceiling. Although it's here, it is yours still. And without you, I'm lost, but with you, I'm the same. And I don't yet feel gone, but with you, I'm the same. Thank you. All right. So now I'm gonna talk about some more important things. I mean, I love music, but we're here to talk about our stories. So I want to start off by talking about some things that we know. Suicide is the third leading cause of death in youth ages 10 to 24. 1 in 5 children ages 13 to 18 have or will have a serious mental illness in their lifetime. Half of all lifetime cases of mental illness will begin by the age of 14, and 75% by the age of 24. We know these things. If we know these things and we understand them soundly, why is it that when I asked for help, no one could hear me? Why is it that when I was showing very obvious warning signs, no one said anything? Why is it that one of my teachers could look me in the eyes and say, I feel like I saw this coming, and I wish I had said something, after I told him that I was being admitted to a mental hospital and leaving school? We know that our youth are struggling, and we know that there's a problem, and yet at the same time, we seem to be oblivious to it. My name is Jenna Andreozzi. I'm an 18-year-old high school senior. Barely. A week from today is actually my last day of school. Tomorrow is my senior prom. Very exciting. I like to, whenever I speak, tell people little things about myself. I feel like that makes me more of a person. I love Instagram and bath bombs and tea and fun socks. The socks I'm wearing right now say "Plants Get Me." And I love the color yellow. And I'm a musician, as you heard. I'm a young person, and I'm an advocate. And I go and I talk to other young people, and I tell them my story. In the last 3 years, I've spoken to over 1,500 elementary, middle, and high school students across the state of Rhode Island. And aside from my story, I've shared with them resources that they can find at home or at school if they feel like they're suffering or they know someone who is. I do this because I know, as I've sat through quite a few assemblies in my time as a high school student, that when you can relate to someone and you can see a little bit of yourself on stage, you can better understand what they're saying and you can better hear them. So this is my story. When I was in middle school is when I first started suffering with mental illness. I had a not-so-hot group of friends, and I started self-harming, and they kind of encouraged me to continue self-harming. It was kind of during the time when like romanticizing mental illness and suicide was really popular for people my age. I mean, I was like 12. I don't get it. I still don't get it. I look back and I just wonder how and why. But I had this not-so-hot group of friends, and then I kind of got out of that group of friends, and I started doing music a lot more, and I started self-harming a lot less. And then my mind was kind of stagnant for a while. I, was definitely still struggling, but not in such a prominent way. Fast forward a little bit, I was a freshman in high school, and I came out. It took me probably around a year or so to fully understand and accept myself. And then when I had started to tell people, there were some people in my life who were very important to me who didn't react super well to that, which was terrifying as a 14-year-old. And I kind of didn't really know how to deal with it. I just was taken aback, and I dropped back into my old, bad self-harm habits, which wasn't great. At that time, I did start therapy. It wasn't super helpful at the time because it wasn't exactly focused on what it should have been. So progress was made, and I did stop self-harming at that time. But then I kind of stopped therapy, and that was ignored for a while. When I was a sophomore, one of my peers took her life, and I had walked into school that morning, and I was all dressed up because I had a presentation, and I had curled my hair, and I was so excited, and my teachers had sat down and broke the news to us, and I couldn't get past this thought in my head that was just, think about how easily that could have been you. And that scared me. That shook me to my core, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. That day, I went down to the library at my school, and I asked the librarian if I could have a bunch of packets of sticky notes, and I wrote, "You are loved, and you are important, and you are cared about, and you are needed" on sticky notes, and I posted them all over my school because I didn't know what else I could do other than tell people that there was someone there for them. I started my advocacy work that year. I have a platform. I was participating in a pageant for the first time that year under the Miss America organization, and my platform is called What's on Your Mind? Mental Health Awareness in Teens. and I started presenting. I started going into schools and telling people my story and saying, here are the things that I have dealt with, and if you're dealing with them, you're not crazy. Other people go through these things. Other people know exactly what you're feeling, and here's what to do about it. So that's when my advocacy work started. It was 2015. Flash forward a little bit, it was my junior year, the second half of my junior year, and I had kind of, previous to this, gotten a little bit of a grip on my mental illness. It was kind of there, but it wasn't super prominent anymore, just kind of as it was a few years ago. But it started to creep back in, and I started to notice it a lot more, and it made everything significantly harder. I had looked around, though, and unlike when I was in middle school, there was no real specific cause for it. I had good friends, I was doing fine in school, I had good family, I had everything that I could ever ask for. And yet, I was feeling all of these things, and I just genuinely pushed it out of my head. I told myself that if I didn't think about it, it wouldn't be there, and it would just go away. And naturally, it didn't. I started therapy again, second semester of my junior year, but I didn't really click with my therapist. I didn't have a really great relationship with her, and so I just was busy. I was like, you know what, this isn't working, so I'm going to stop. And it got rapidly worse from there. So my senior year starts, and it's just stress on stress on stress. Like, people say that junior year is the worst, and I really have to disagree, because senior year dragged me through the mud. I mean, really, college applications are not easy, and I would never, ever do that process all over again. So I had my job, and I had a new workload that I was adjusting to, and I had my social life, and I had college applications, and the world literally felt like it was closing in on me. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was so distraught and so disorganized and so out of it, and I didn't know what to do. So I did kind of the one thing that I had always been told to do if I needed someone to talk to, and I walked down to my guidance counselor's office. And I met with the student assistance counselor at my school, who I said, I feel very distraught. I feel like I need everything to stop. I feel like I can't handle this anymore. I don't know what's going on with me, but it's too much. And she handed me a list of therapists that I could call. And she said, start seeing a counselor again. And that's how you'll get better. That's where you go from there. And I vividly remember saying, I just want a diagnosis. I want someone to say, this is the problem, and this is how we're going to fix it. And she had just suggested to me, she said, just go back to therapy. That'll be fine. You'll do fine. Just go back to therapy. And so I took the list home, and I gave it to my parents, and it, of course, got lost somewhere in my house, and then nothing ever happened. And that's fine. Life happens. I was busy, as I had said. And so she kept checking in on me, and she would call me down to her office, and she would ask me if I had done anything about it, or if I was feeling better. I would say no, I don't feel better, and no, I haven't called anyone. I haven't at the time. Gave the list to my parents. I was like, can I have another copy of the list? She was like, yeah, sure. And then I never got that copy of the list. But it's fine. I knew that there was something wrong. I knew that I shouldn't be feeling this way. And I had felt like I did something about it. I was like, I tried to get help, and this is where I am. So I guess I'm just going to finish this year, and it's going to be fine. And March rolled around. And everything that I was feeling in November when I had originally went down to the guidance office was 10 times worse. And I had really hit a new low. I had hit a new point that I never thought that I could reach. And I sat on my ex-girlfriend's floor, and I told her that I didn't want to be alive anymore. And I cried. I said, I don't know what to do. I feel like I've told people, I feel like I've showed people that there's a problem, and nobody can hear me, and nobody is listening. And I said, if I'm going to live like this, you know what? Then life is just not for me. Then this is so much more than my body can hold. And I went back down to my guidance counselor's office the next day. And I told her, I sat across from her and I looked at her and I said, I don't want to be alive. And was that true? No, I want to be alive. I want to live. I want to go to prom and I want to graduate high school and I want to go to college and do all of the great life things that people do. But I didn't want to live anymore if it was going to feel like that forever. That day I got help. And I went and I got an assessment done at Butler Hospital. And the woman that I spoke with in the emergency room, after she had finished talking to me, she turned around and she said, I'm so glad you came in because you made the right choice. And I've never, ever felt more relieved than I did in that moment because finally someone had heard me. That's the problem. Our students are struggling, and we know that. We know the facts. We know that our students are going through things and they're not being addressed. It's up to us to equip our teachers and equip their peers with the skills to have a conversation, not just the warning signs. Because I know that there are people that saw issues in my life and they saw that there was something wrong, but they didn't know how to approach that conversation. They didn't know how to come up to me and say, hey, can we do something about this? We need to better equip our teachers with conversational tools to intervene in students' lives and say, hey, I think that there's something going on. If there's not, you can tell me, but I want to do something about it. I want to make sure that you don't have to get to a point where you don't feel like anyone can hear you. We can't only be listening to the students whose voices are as loud as mine, because I don't mind getting up here and sharing my story and being vulnerable. But there are students that can't. And we can't only listen to my voice, we have to listen to the voices of the students whose whispers are barely loud enough to hear. Thank you.
Give it up for Jenna. Thank you, Jenna.